and we're very lucky today to have Judith Blowy, who's going to, before the meeting, we'll have a moment of quiet reflection. Thank you very much. This is usually what happens, but we haven't had moments of reflection, unfortunately, through various sicknesses and things like that. So thank you very much, Judith, and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judith Blowy. I'm an assistant priest in the benefice of Tavistock and Galworthy and Brentor. I'm married to my husband, Peter, who with my son are dairy farmers near Galworthy. I spend a lot of my time in the rural parishes, and particularly that of Galworthy. But my ministry also takes me into the school with Open the Books, building links with the parish council and the hall committee. But my calling really is in pastoral care, and I have the privilege of being an honorary chaplain in Derriford Hospital.
Thank you very much. And as you may know, you're always invited to stay here. And if you would like to join our budget and devolution discussions, you are more than welcome. However, you may be better going and looking after your parishioners. But thank you very much indeed. It was lovely to see you.
And it's lovely to be here.
Thank you.
For the offer of staying.
Oh, well, another time.
Oh, we have a lovely lady.
And thank you for all the good that you do as well, and the kindness. Right, I'll sit down. So the time is 14:08, so we'll now get into the meeting proper. Everyone all right? Okay, everybody okay? So we start the meeting, West Devon Borough Council, for the full meeting on the Tuesday, the 18th of February 2025. Darryl, item 1, apologies. Could you give us the apologies, please?
I can, thank you very much, Mayor. So for this afternoon's meeting, we've got apologies from Councillors Blackman, Bridgewater, Cheadle, Viney and Watts. And Councillor Watts is on the Teams link at the moment.
Okay, thanks. So as somebody is on the Teams meeting and also members of the public might be watching, please do use your microphone. I will remind people that if they wish to stand, they can, but these are designed, which is the tradition, out of respect. However, the sound quality, the purpose of the microphones is to transfer the sound, and they are designed for people to sit. Item 2, confirmation of minutes. We've got 2 sets of minutes, 10th of December 2024 and a special meeting held on 6th of January 2025. And we need to both approve that they are true and correct record of the meeting. Is everybody happy that they are a true and correct record? Yep. Can I have a show of hands? Yep. Lovely job.
Thank you, Mayor. That's clearly carried for both sets of minutes.
Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. So I invite members to declare any disposable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, including the nature and extent of such interests they may have in any items to be considered at this meeting. So Councillor Ball, yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm probably okay, but I thought I would check it. Obviously, I'm a licensed taxi driver, so therefore in the budget, as part of the budget is the costs of the, so making a decision about the charges against myself, so
licensing and that.
So I'm just declaring that as an interest.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Ball. And David, you're happy with that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that's fine.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Councillor Ball. Anybody else? No. Okay. So now communications from the Mayor. And whilst I just crank up my emails, because I have an exciting thing to do, I'll just invite people or remind people about the civic dinner. Now, it's not going to be on the 12th of April, as I said in the previous meeting. It's actually going to be the 26th of April, a Saturday. Details to follow next week. Now, if I've just declared that, it'll maybe spur me on to actually get something done. So I hope that as many of you will be able to join the celebration. Oh yes, may I remind everyone to switch their telephones off? Yeah, mine's on silence.
Madam
Right.
Mayor,
Yes?
do you have a venue for your function?
It's going to be at the Tavistock Golf Club.
It's still going to be there.
Yeah, it is. And on cue, Councillor Ewings, I'm going to stand here. Here we have an award. And, if you'll bear with me, because one of the officers has kindly written some information about you, Leader. May I ask you to come out here? Hold that so I can. If you hold that, and then I can read this blurb, because I don't want to miss anything, and please excuse my back. This is a few bullet points for the Clarence Barrett Award, which I've asked for, because Mandy has been awarded this Local Government Association Clarence Barrett Award, which is Local Government Association Independent Group Annual Conference. And Mandy has been awarded a silver? Yeah. A silver certificate. And the dissertation was, Mandy has served in a variety of leadership roles in local government, politics, both at the Borough and Town Council for more than 20 years. In 2025, LGA peer review found that West Devon is a high-performing council which is led and managed, and it's delivering consistently well on behalf of its communities. This is to the credit of all political groups, but especially the leader who's worked tirelessly to establish and embed an independent-led alliance drawing on talent, skills and experience for the benefits of residents of West Devon. Due to the difficulties facing many West Devon families, Mandy has recently turned to addressing the housing crisis. She sits on the Joint Housing Advisory Board for Dartmoor and helps inform the Devon Housing Commission report on important solutions to the housing crisis in Devon. She also serves as a corporate parent on the Strategic Partnership Board for Devon County Council. Her commitment to the local community is recognised by all who work with her, and she deserves recognition for the enormous contribution she makes to West Devon. So congratulations, Leader. And so I think really what is also nice there is that there's recognition for everyone. And as we were saying at the meeting before, there's a lot of big decisions to make. So it's really important that we are as kind and supportive to each other so that we can best represent our community. Thank you very much, Leader, and well done.
Thank you, everyone.
So item 5, business brought forward by the Mayor. I have no items. Public questions, there are no questions received. Questions of notice, item 7, no questions of notice received from members. Item 8, motions of notice, no motion of notice, bit of a tongue twister, received from members. So now I will go to the committee minutes. And Councillor Dexter, could you please present the minutes of the Audit and Governance Committee meeting on the 3rd of December 2024 and recommendations to Council, please?
Thank you. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee held on the 3rd of December 2024 be received and noted. They are minutes AC 22-24 to AC 31-24 and can be found between pages 17 and 20 of the agenda paper. So I'll ask for a seconder to that, please.
Yeah, will we a seconder, please? Yeah. Councillor Enders, thank you. Now moving to the Development Management and Licensing Committee meeting, 17th of December 2024. In the absence of Councillor Cheadle, Councillor Southcott is to present the minutes, and there are no recommendations to Council.
I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Development Management and Licensing Committee held on the 17th of December 2024 be received and noted. There are minutes DM and L 42 to DMNL 49 and can be found between pages 21 and 24. Can I get a seconder, please?
Thank you, Councillor Mott. Okay. Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting 14th of January 2025. Councillor Kimber to present minutes. There are no recommendations to Council.
Thank you. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 14th of January 2025 be received and noted. They are ONS 21/24 to ONS 33/24 and can be found between pages 25 and 33 of the published agenda papers. Could I have a seconder, please?
Thank you. I've got Councillor Calder. Thank you. Sorry, I've just... Thank you. So, Councillor Calder. All right. Now, the Hub Committee meeting of 28th of January 2025. Councillor Ewings to present the minutes. There are two standalone recommendations to Council relating to the Revenue Budget Monitoring Report and the Community Wellbeing and Engagement Strategy. Those recommendations relating to the draft revenue and capital budget and council tax discounts and premiums will be considered at standalone agenda item 10 later in the meeting.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Sorry, a bit of a cold. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Hub Committee held on the 28th of January 2025 be received and noted, with the exception of minutes HC 6124, Part 2, Revenue Budget Monitoring, HC 6324, the Draft Revenue and Capital Budget Proposals. These recommendations will be considered later in the agenda. HC 6424, Council Tax Discounts and Premiums. These recommendations will also be considered later in the agenda. And HC 6624, Community Engagement and Wellbeing Strategy. They are minutes HC 5624 to HC 7024 and can be found between pages 35 and 43 of the published agenda papers. May I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thanks, Councillor Renders. Thank you, Leader.
In respect of recommendation HC 6124, Part 2, I propose the following. That Council be recommended to transfer 300,000 of the current projected underspend surplus for 24-25 to the recovery plan and corporate strategy earmarked reserve for reinvestment back into the delivery of the council plan. May I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Is there any debate on that item?
All those in favour, please.
That's 26 unanimous. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
In respect of recommendation HC 6624, I propose the following. That Council be recommended to approve the strategy, wellbeing and engagement strategy as set out at Appendix A of the presented agenda report to the Hub Committee meeting. May I have a seconder, please?
Sorry.
Councillor Elliott.
Oh, thanks, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. No. Is there any questions or debate? If so, direct them to Councillor Elliott.
Okay. Any questions? Please raise your hand high.
Go on then, Lynn.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Daniel.
I just wanted to ask whether there's been we employed the cost of living officer, a part-time one, and have we had any evidence that this has been successful in increasing the uptake of benefits across West Devon? Thanks.
So that's an excellent question, but it's not part of the community wellbeing strategy. I think there may well be an officer here, Mrs. Hotchkiss, who may be able to offer an update on that if the chair feels it's appropriate at this point in the meeting.
If you've got a swift answer, yes, please. Thank you very much. And may I remind members to please move your microphone near to you and don't direct it. I know it's rude when you're wanting to answer somebody directly, but unfortunately you're going to have to direct your communication to the microphone, please, because we were losing the sounds there and the acoustics are rubbish in this bespoke building.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, I don't really have the detail to hand to provide that level of update. Instead, I suggest that I circulate that information outside of the meeting, if that's okay.
That would be absolutely fine, and sorry to put you on the spot. So, Councillor Ewings, you've finished?
Sorry, I just need a vote now, please, Madam Mayor.
So everybody aware now, all those in favour?
That is unanimous for minute HC 6624. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Item 10, draft revenue and capital budget proposal for 2025-26. Councillor Ewings to introduce the report, please. All right, you've got an award for all this.
Members, we have before us the report on the revenue and capital budget proposals for the next financial year, 2025 to 2026. This is a culmination of over 6 months of hard work on behalf of members and officers in putting together the budget for next year. This is probably a point that we really thank Mrs. Buckle. I can't remember Pauline's surname, it's just flown out my head. But, thank you. Mrs. Henstock, thank you. For this coming year, to balance the budget of 8.8 million, the Council has identified savings and additional income of just under 1.8 million. The Council has faced increased costs such as temporary accommodation and a reduction in income at the same time. Just before Christmas, we received the local government finance settlement, and we were very disappointed that the government has withdrawn a key source of funding for rural councils by taking away the Rural Services Delivery Grant. At this point, it's worth adding that Devon County Council also had it taken away, and I think it was about 60 million for them. So it's a lot of money that has disappeared out of Devon, for want of a better way of putting it, across the piece. The council used to receive over 0.6 million, so 600,000 per year from this government grant, and it was to compensate rural councils for the fact that it does cost more to deliver services in rural areas. Looking forward to the future, we know that there will be more local government funding reforms for future years, and the Council is currently predicting that in 2026-2027, we will have a budget gap of 1.7 million. Other government grants, such as New Home Bonus Scheme, are also being stopped after next year. The recommendation within this report is to increase council tax by 2.99%. This would mean the West Devon Borough Council share of a council tax bill would increase to £269.41 for a Band D registered property for 25-26. This is an increase of £7.82 per year, or the equivalent of 15 pence per week. The budget proposals contain the proposal to charge second home owners a second home's council tax premium, and the income raised from this of £400, which is West Devon Borough Council's 11% share of the council tax bill, will be spent on housing initiatives within the borough. I have to say that I am really pleased that the council has taken this decision to keep the money for housing, because not every authority is doing so. Reserves are at a prudent level, and the Section 151 officers' report on their adequacy and the robustness of budget estimates is attached to the report in Appendix J. At the 11th of March Hub Committee meeting and at Council on the 25th of March, okay, don't know what year that was, the Council will set out its delivery, going forward, will set out its delivery plan for the forthcoming year, which will focus on the Council's ambitions and priorities for the borough. These are housing, climate and biodiversity, planning and the built environment, community wellbeing, economy and jobs, neighbourhood services, customer experience and accessibility, and performance and resources. Capital bids are also part of the budget report and contain bids to have a rolling refurbishment and improvement plan for public conveniences within the borough, as well as taking on board recommendations around decarbonisation of the council's assets. The West Devon housing offer is part of next year's council proposals. The scheme supports communities and landowners who would like to bring forward affordable housing in their area. Does anyone have any questions, please?
Yeah, I'll just say, if you've got any questions, there's no limit on the number a member can ask. No, doesn't appear to be any. Oh, right,
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Could I ask about community land trusts for local organisations, local villages and communities? What support could we provide for those? Thank you.
Councillor Daniel, can you please speak into the microphone, because unfortunately, did everybody hear okay?
Did everyone hear that? I was asking a question about community land trusts and what support West Devon can provide to enable local communities to set these up and be successful in obtaining social houses. Thank you.
Within our housing team, we have officers that do go and visit parishes and villages, etc., to look at community land trusts. Some of the money we've set aside, it would be considered a housing initiative, and so there is some a little bit of funding that could be available. I wouldn't say you're going to get rich on it, because you certainly aren't, but it may help you bring in matched funding, etc., to help you out. And our housing enabling team would then be able to work with the towns, well, the villages mainly for community land trusts, to work with them to ascertain whether it is suitable and to take forward plans as they go forward.
Thank you.
Just as to add to that, you could still apply with the West Devon housing offer through that as well, actually. Sorry, I said you could still, we could still utilise some of the West Devon housing offer for community land trusts as well, so they could apply through that scheme. If that's any help.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, please, members? Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Mayor. The 80,000, or just over 80,000, transfer to earmark reserve, have we got any specific plans for that, or is that a view for something to come forward relating to housing in the future, bearing in mind what our future looks like?
Are you talking about with the Second Homes Council tax funding, Councillor Ball?
I am, Leader, yeah, thank you.
So that would be set aside and put under the housing cost coding. So it would only be used for housing. It won't be used for anything for local government reorganisation.
Councillor Ball again.
Sorry, a follow-up question through the Mayor to yourself, Leader. So the question I've got is that that can be used for projects that relating to housing that we might bring forward from council. That's the question I'm asking.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Right, there appear to be no more questions. Then there's recommendation proposed and seconded. Thanks, Leader.
So the draft revenue and capital budget proposals 25-26 recommendations are 1, little I, or little 1, Roman 1 to Roman 12. It is recommended that, and hopefully, can you all read that? Because I'm going to be here until next week reading it all out. Yeah. Okay.
Is everybody happy, or do you want me to read it out, or no? Everybody's happy. You've got it all down. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering about people viewing it. They can see it as well. Yeah, online. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Carry on, Leader.
Right. So I am proposing this as our budget for 25-26, and if I could have a seconder, please.
Happy to second.
Councillor Renders. We note in accordance with council procedure rules, the head of paid services has not received prior notification of any amendments related to the budget. Therefore, there is no ability to put forward any amendments on the budget. I now open this to debate, and you have one opportunity, members, to speak. So are there any members? Councillor Jury.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your preamble and for a very clear and informative report, which I'm very grateful for. I do wish to make some points today, and I wish to talk about the budget proposals. And while there is much to consider, I would like to highlight an area that I think in any other year would be a cause for celebration: the significant additional income this council has generated and received. Firstly, through our long-term investment programme initiated by the previous but one council, that continues to deliver, bringing in around £300,000 net per annum. This is a clear example of how forward-thinking financial management can provide sustainable income, reducing the burden on our taxpayers. Secondly, the decision to invest in our revenues and benefits team has paid dividends, securing, you will note from the report, an additional £275,000 per annum from renewable energy business rates. This wouldn't have been possible without the outstanding work of Mrs. Hotchkiss and her team, whose efforts ensure that West Devon gets its fair share. Thirdly, members will also note that we have received £1.078 million in additional grant income from the Extended Producer Responsibility Tax as a direct result of provisions within the UK Environment Act 2021. However, it's important to stress that, unlike some councils, we have not needed to scramble to meet these new requirements, thanks to the excellent work of Mrs. Moody, ably assisted by Mr. Molyneux, and also some great work by our contractors. Our recycling system is already designed to meet the necessary standards. That foresight and preparation means we're in a strong position to make the most of this funding. Taken together, this equates to £1.6 million of additional income. In normal circumstances, this could be a transformative moment for this council. Under ordinary conditions, I'd very likely be standing here proposing that we freeze or even reduce council tax, allowing the residents of West Devon to finally benefit from over a decade of sound financial management. But sadly, that's not an option. Instead, council tax must rise by 2.99%, not to fund improvements, not to expand services, but simply to maintain what we have. And the reason is clear: government policy. The uncertainty surrounding business rate income leaves councils in financial limbo. The removal of the new homes bonus and the rural services grant has stripped vital funding from local authorities, particularly rural ones like ours. And worst of all, the Chancellor's increase in employers' national insurance contribution has drastically raised our costs, without full compensation and with no guarantees beyond the first year. Let me remind members, before the 2023 local elections, Keir Starmer promised that council tax would not go up under Labour. Yet here we are, forced to increase it by the maximum amount allowed, not by choice but by necessity. We as a council have done everything right, balancing the books, making prudent investments, generating new income streams, yet the policies of central government leave us no choice but to pass costs on to our residents. Let me be clear, I will support this increase because we must be responsible and plan for the future, but let there be no doubt, the rise is in direct consequence of government policy. It's deeply frustrating that despite years of careful financial management, we find ourselves in this position. But as this council has always done, I'm sure we will continue to manage our finances wisely, safeguard our services, and do everything we can to protect our residents from the worst impacts of these decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Jury. Any other councillors? Councillor Moody wanting to say something? Okay. What? Councillor West.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to also reflect on the great work the finance team have been doing for us, both now and in the past. Inevitably, things change over time, and it is great that the prudence is there. There's been a lot of work and a lot of change before my time within West Devon to put us in a position whereby we can actually, for the want of a better word, suck up some of these situations. I would agree with Councillor Jury that we are in a situation whereby national government, at the moment, and previous national governments, seem to have forgotten about West Devon and Devon as whole through funding formulas which are not fair and not appropriate. For me, this is just another sign of our national government being out of touch with the issues we have as a rural community and we have as a council in supporting that rural community. There is a lot of rural poverty out there, and policies both currently and in the past have not really done very much to support them. I am pleased that we've been able to use our second home tax to actually support our housing ambitions, and I think that is a great step forward. I would also like to see, well, I have concerns when we come down to our national planning, 1.5 million houses, the impact that is going to have on us. But hopefully, through our prudence and our plans, we can actually help, particularly those who are the most vulnerable in our society, benefit. So lastly, I would reiterate, thank you again to the finance team. Thank you to the officers for managing in a very, very difficult situation. And I sincerely hope the national government actually does realise the impact that changes are having on us, both financially and in terms of the current reorganisation, which we will discuss later. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, certainly we missed the rural grant significantly, which was from the previous government. Anybody else wanting to say? Councillor Ewings.
If I could just say something, if everybody's finished, to close the debate. Okay.
Yeah, crack on, please.
This has been a hard budget to come by, as we all know. Mrs. Buckle and her team have been peeling grapes for years, and I'm surprised she hasn't hit the pips yet, because this is an ongoing situation. I would just like to correct Councillor Jury on one part. The Treasury management was already going in 2003 when I first joined this council, and Mrs. Buckle will testify how excited I was when it was on there, because it was one subject I understood really well, because that's what I did when I worked in the bank, was Treasury management. And in fact, I remember having to correct her because we were using the bank I worked for at the time. And So I've always been very keen, as Councillor Jury knows, and Councillor Edmonds, on treasury management. It's the sexiest part of the accounts, and it actually does work. It brings us money. The other situation I would like to say, and it does follow on again from what Councillor Jury said about what a well-managed authority that we are. We will be going into the new difficult times that are about to face us with local government reorganisation. We're going in as a council that has managed to get a balanced budget, which hasn't had to cancel services and things like that. Many of my colleagues across the country are in some very difficult, precarious times. If we look at devolution and local government reorganisation, you should be very grateful that you are not a councillor in Surrey or in Essex. Some of the debts that the local district councils are bringing to that table are horrific. They are in the billions. So I think we should, practically be on our knees thanking Mrs. Buckle and her team. And Mrs. Buckle has been here now, I think it's 26 years this year, Lisa? Yep. And she has kept us on a very straight and narrow road. And long may that continue. And South Hams and West Devon are blessed that we can look after our budgets in the way that we do. We have the reserves we're meant to hold. We also have projects that we can be doing, projects that can invigorate some of the officers instead of just standing still and, holding on the rail for dear life. They're actually able to get on with some projects that are exciting. We have the Oakhampton Interchange. That is a huge project for a district authority like us to be left holding the baby, as they would say. We're the accountable body for it. We are doing all those decisions. There are not many officers that get to plan railway stations and new train lines coming in. So, when we're looking for people, if we need them to come and work for this authority, we have got things that will really strike a chord that makes them decide to come to us, and in Mrs. Buckle's case, to stay. She's not allowed to go anywhere. I think Councillor Edmonds would have something to say to her as well. And at this point, I would also like to thank Councillor Edmonds for the work that he does working with the finance team. I only have a very junior part in it, I would say. I have to know about it all, but actually, Councillor Edmonds, he is the man who knows more than I go to Chris when I need things, and to Mrs. Buckle and Henstock and Mrs. Hotchkiss. So we have got a really good financial team, and we should celebrate that, and that this budget should be able to go straight through, hopefully with nobody voting against or abstentions, because we are very, very lucky here in West Devon to have the budget that we have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Has anybody... No, that's it, it's done. That was the summing up, thanks. So it's a statutory requirement for all budget recommendations to be conducted via a named recorded vote, and it's suggested that we have a separate recorded vote for part 1 of the recommendation, with a second recorded vote for parts 2 to 12 inclusive. May I delegate to you, please, Darryl, to oversee this, please?
Thank you very much, Mayor. So therefore, members will vote via named recorded vote for part 1 of the recommendation only, which is as per the screens. Again, in alphabetical order, members. Councillor Ball.
4.
Councillor Calder.
4.
Councillor Casbolt.
4.
Councillor Cunningham.
4.
Councillor Daniel.
4.
Councillor Dexter.
4.
Councillor Edmonds.
4.
Councillor Elliott.
4.
Councillor Ewings?
4.
Councillor Greenbury-Pullen?
4.
Councillor Guthrie?
4.
Councillor Johnson?
4.
Councillor Jewry?
4.
Councillor Kimber?
4.
Councillor Leach?
4.
Councillor Mann?
4.
Councillor Moody?
4.
Councillor Mott?
4.
Councillor Roxburgh?
4.
Councillor Renders?
4.
Councillor Saxby?
4.
Councillor Sellis?
4.
Councillor Southcott?
4.
Councillor Vashon?
4.
Councillor Wakeham?
4.
And Councillor West?
4.
Thank you, members. That is therefore 26 votes in favour of part 1 and therefore unanimous. Thank you, Mayor. So moving on now to parts 2 to 12 inclusive. Again, alphabetical order. Councillor Ball.
4.
Councillor Calder.
4.
Councillor Casbolt.
4.
Councillor Cunningham.
4.
Councillor Daniel.
4.
Councillor Dexter.
4.
Councillor Edmonds.
4.
Councillor Elliott.
4.
Councillor Ewings.
4.
Councillor Greenbury-Pullen.
4.
Councillor Guthrie.
4.
Councillor Johnson.
4.
Councillor Jewry.
4.
Councillor Kimber.
4.
Councillor Leach.
4.
Councillor Mann.
4.
Councillor Moody.
4.
Councillor Mott.
4.
Councillor Roxburgh.
4.
Councillor Renders.
4.
Councillor Saxby.
4.
Councillor Sellis.
4.
Councillor Southcott.
4.
Councillor Vashon.
4.
Councillor Wakeham.
4.
And Councillor West.
4.
Thank you, members. For you again, Mayor, that is 26 votes and unanimous, therefore, for parts 2 to 12 inclusive of the budget recommendations and therefore carried. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Darryl. Thank you, members. Item 11, local government review. Invite the leader to give us a verbal update. Can you introduce, please, leader?
I will introduce and then pass over to the Chief Executive. As we all know, the White Paper came out on the 16th of December. Some lives have never been the same since. It's jolly interesting, actually, on that note, that it's taken over my life completely. But if I talk to any of my friends, they haven't got a clue. It really is just in a very tiny world of the real world, this issue. We have been holding weekly meetings since the first week in January of Devon Districts Forum, and we have had a meeting Monday before last with Devon County Council, Plymouth City Council and Torbay Unitary Authority. So we have all got together in a room. It wouldn't surprise any of you to know that we didn't all agree. But we heard of what each other thought, and in some cases we didn't hear anything. So we have now got together and had further meetings. There will be a meeting tomorrow morning with a sort of group of where we were, because it's no longer dealt with under Devon Districts Forum, because Exeter are no longer participating, because they are going to do their own plan. So at the moment, we have the rest of us, the 7 of us, so that is, let me do my head, Torridge, North Devon, Mid Devon, Exeter, no Exeter, East Devon, and then Teambridge, Torbay, South Hams and West Devon talking to each other. So tomorrow morning, there is a further meeting with the chief executives, and we hope from that meeting that a bit more can actually formally be decided upon, so we can start to do some of the work we need to do to be able to set out for the 21st of March our initial plan. We can hope that Devon may look at the plan and think it's reasonable and they could join it. They will submit, they're down to 3 options now. And we can also wait if Exeter decide to try and go it alone. or whether they come in, and Plymouth will be going it alone. So it's a bit of a mishmash still. The one, I was going to say positive, but it's not positive at all, but it means we don't have to think about it at the moment, is the devolution deal. Because Cornwall are not coming to the table effectively, to use the language that's being used. Devon have been orphaned. We are on our own. So we are looking into ways that that can be remedied. And the government at this time do not wish to impose on people, but they still don't wish grey areas. So maybe something will bring Cornwall to a table. Change in the elections in May may help, but other than that, at the moment, there is nothing that we can do. So I will now pass over to the Chief Exec, who will give you a bit more, but not a lot, meat on the bones. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So, thank you for what you said about the discussions that are taking place. As you said, the white paper was published by the government shortly before Christmas. And it's interesting, I think, that the white paper covers a huge amount of ground in terms of the government's plans and thoughts about devolution, and a very tiny amount of detail about local government reorganisation. There have been discussions clearly across Devon about devolution, and I think there is some level of support indicated, at least informally, across the Devon districts and indeed county and other councils for the principle of working to secure a devolved mayoral combined authority, strategic combined authority. I think that there are merits in that. It would provide for the devolution of powers from Whitehall to our area and give greater control over strategic planning, infrastructure investment and such like. But that would require a group of councils to come together and to support that proposition. As the leader has said, although there is some support, there is not yet support across the whole of the area that we would cover. And so the opportunity for devolution is rather parked at this point, and no doubt we'll come back to it. In the meantime, on the 5th of February, the Minister for Local Government, Jim McMahon, OBE MP, wrote to leaders across the Devon geography. He wrote to all of the leaders in areas of the country where there are county councils and district councils. In this case, he wrote to the leader of Devon County Council, the 8 district councils, Plymouth and Torbay. The letter set out the government's criteria for future consideration of local government reorganisation, the government having already made it clear that they intend to move to unitary local government in future. The letter included, as I said, the criteria by which those future proposals would be considered. It set out a timeline for that, the timeline being the 28th of November, but asked that councils work together across the Devon area with a view to submitting what they are describing as interim plans by the 21st of March. Clearly a very short deadline indeed. Within the criteria, the government has reiterated its belief that reorganisation should be around the creation of new councils with a population of 500,000, that as far as possible that reorganisation should take place on a single proposal coming forward from an area, but there was recognition that that might not be possible and that there might be more than one proposal. And importantly, that any proposals for reorganisation should take account of the existing district footprint and wherever possible work within those. As soon as you put those constraints into the mix, it's immediately apparent that there are not too many potential options across the wider Devon geography which conform to that. As the leader has said, informal conversations have been taking place at a political level, and subject to those concluding, we intend to work together as officers to formulate the proposal to submit to government on the 21st of March. I did circulate the details to members, as I said, of the letter, and that came out on the 6th. But I'll happily summarise the key things that we're being asked to do. So in terms of the interim plans, we're being asked to identify any barriers or challenges which would get in the way of reorganisation, options for the size and boundaries of new councils, indicative costs and arrangements in relation to those options, views on the number of councillors, early views on how new structures and will support devolution ambitions, coming back to the wider devolution point, a summary of any local engagement that may or may not have taken place, to set out indicative costs of preparing proposals, and to set out any voluntary arrangements that have been agreed to keep all councils involved in those discussions. So that is what we are being asked to do, as I said, by the 21st of March in an indicative form. Thank you, Leader. Happy to answer any questions.
I would just like to add, because a lot of you have towns and parish councils. At the moment, as districts, we've felt that it has been not the right time to have meetings with DALC. They normally attend Devon District Forum as observers, but we haven't been having any proper meetings. There's been no minutes taken or anything else. When we know where we are, we will, of course, let towns and village councils know of what is going on, because it is only fair. You know, our members on towns and parishes, they're right down at the lower level, and nothing is happening to them, apart from probably an increase of work. So we need to work quite closely with those parish councils to keep them informed and abreast of what they may do. Some of the parishes may consider merging a bit more, because it may necessitate it. There will be far more work for these parish councillors. So I think we need to be quite open and honest about that. And as soon as we can, we will bring them into the fold of what is happening. But all the while, we don't know what's happening. There is little point in upsetting parish councillors who some of them may be getting a bit cross now that they feel they don't know enough, because you'll always have some that are really interested in everything else. But at the moment, we have nothing to tell them. This is happening, and, you know, I can say for all the time the Chief Exec and I have put into all this, can we really say that we've delivered anything or got anything out of it? No, we haven't. We've had some sandwiches in Exeter and that's about it, because we can't decide yet. So as soon as we can, we will, of course, let all the towns and parishes know what is going on and what West Devon sees as its journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So I'm now inviting any questions from members, please. Councillor West.
I'd just like to follow on from Mandy's statement, if I may. We've talked about towns and parishes, and obviously there are huge implications for that. And I realise at this point in time we are at a very early stage. However, are we in a position to begin to look at some sort of impact statement for our towns and parishes? If not, will that come after? That will come after March 31st, between the 28th of November.
So, if I may answer, absolutely, there will need to be a whole series of really detailed analysis done, and that will be done as part of the submission of the proposals, the full proposals for reorganisation in November. So, excuse me, we're in the unusual position of being asked to very quickly give an indication, but without very much time at all to do any kind of analysis of the impact of that. I'm sure you can appreciate what a tricky situation that is. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Greenbury-Pullen.
I'd just like to thank both of you for the work that you've been doing, and also recognise that it's an incredibly difficult decision to make decisions without data, and that's not being supplied to us. I think all of our focus remains on our communities, our parishes, our town councils, the people we represent. The current government hasn't enabled us to have the time, nor has county enabled us to have sufficient information. So under those circumstances, I just wish the best of luck for all of us and our residents, who at the heart of what we do is the reason we do what we do. And I think it's a very difficult position. My hopes are for the best for Tavistock and for all the other members of our county.
Can I just add to that Devon County, in a meeting yesterday, did inform the Chief Executive and myself that we would be getting pixel data, whatever that is, by the end of the month, and Newton data, which is to do with adult social services, by the 14th of March. So there was a complete reluctance to share, but they have now been informed that they need to share, and that's happened across the country.
And if I may, through the chair, as being the only county councillor here, that actually county council is in the dark as well. So although there's been a lot of criticism directed directly at Devon County Council, there is this terrific sense of loss and change there. So I don't think it's wise to keep bloodying Devon County Council, because the government is clear that it wants to get rid of borough and district councils and the county councils. So I think as I've always said, I think there needs to be kindness. If there's one thing in the world you can be, is kind. And it's very easy to criticise and put blame elsewhere, but actually, as a county councillor, I will say that and maybe take my chain off. But it's a very trying time for everyone. So I would just remind members that it's the same for county councillors as well as the borough councillors and town councillors. We're in a massive confusion. Have you finished now, Leader? Are there any other questions, members? Councillor Kimber.
Thank you very much. We talked about there being no minutes in these meetings and no information to be shared with parish councils yet. But when and how will this become an open and transparent process? And will our residents be able to see democracy in action, or will they feel decisions are being made behind closed doors?
Well, I'd like to think that people would see this as democracy in action. This is the members of West Devon representing the people that you represent. So this process today is exactly that. But what I would say is the timescales that have been imposed on us by government are so constrained that the opportunities for debate, communication and involvement are massively reduced. So today is about democracy. It's regrettable that we are working into the constrained timeframes we are. I take the point of the Mayor. I'm sure that Devon County members are just as frustrated as we are about the lack of data to underpin the debate, but that is the situation we're in, and we're making the best of it. Subject to today, and subject to us being in a position to submit our interim plans, I'm sure that further conversations will happen, but the priority and focus has to be that, otherwise there's a severe risk that we'll fail to do that whilst we're communicating with others what we're doing. I'm sorry to be blunt, but I've got to focus on doing the knitting at the moment.
Thanks, Councillor Ewing.
Can I just add to that, Councillor Kimber, that the dates, the shortened date when we were told that we would have the letter by the end of January, that didn't arrive until the 5th of February. The fact it was a white paper that was submitted, so there was no consultation with anybody because there was no green paper. So, you know, unfortunately, at the top is where things are being stymied. It's not West Devon or districts or county at the moment that is stymieing the information that can come out. It isn't decisions behind closed doors. We want to be as open as possible. But at the moment, it's having to have very careful discussions as to where we can go, who can work with who, what is the best area to go with another area. And it's a lot of information like that. If we were to have that in a meeting like this, it'd be absolute chaos, because I can assure you, just between 11, when we're all in the room, authorities, and 8, when we're sometimes in the room, I think I've described some of the meetings as like bloodletting, because the first couple, people were having to get their head round being told about this on the 16th of December, and the impact that has suddenly had. I'm one of these people who has a great ability that I can mourn for a day or so, and then the next day I'm like, right, okay, bring it on. What are we going to do? That is where our chief exec is desperate to be. And you've probably heard that in group meetings with him earlier, that he is so frustrated that he can't get on with things. But we just can't. You know, we can't sit here and say X, Y, Z is happening, but we haven't bothered to speak to Y and Z, and we're revealing something in public that their councillors could say, I'm not doing that, we're not doing that. So it feels like dealing with the UN at the moment, and it feels like a peacekeeping force sometimes when I'm chairing the meetings, and that's how it feels. So it is really, really delicate. And to bring every member of the public in, and people, you know, in towns and villages, etc. And some villages have asked me to go out and talk about it, and I'm happy to do so. But we just, at the moment, we just can't reveal names, numbers, or anything like that, because there is no formal decision. We hope after the meeting tomorrow that there will be a much better idea of where we're going and the geography and place, and we hope that we may from there have another meeting on Friday morning to actually allow the chief execs to be able to send out a letter of what is going on, because we are acutely aware that because the public don't know, they speculate. And it's not always good when people speculate, because things go very wrong and actually can cause more trouble. So as soon as we can say anything, we will. All of you in this room know that I am very open and honest. And, you know, if I can say it, I will. And I have learnt that our chief exec, he runs on the same model I do. He would rather tell us all what is going on when he can. And at the moment, we just can't, because it is not our news, when it becomes news, to share just as West Devon. We have to be in agreement with other partners that we may have to be with. So I'm really sorry, folks, but I think it's going to be a couple of weeks yet. I would really dearly hope that something could come out next week, but I'm not sure. Okay?
Chief Exec.
So I think the important point is that we need to respect the democracy in all the other parts of Devon in the same way that we would ask them to respect the democracy in West Devon. Until everybody is agreed on the plan and united, there is no plan that we can put into the public domain, and it's as simple as that. So as the leader has said, there are conversations happening. It might be that we'll be in a position to say what those indicative thoughts are reasonably soon, but it is a matter for all of the councils to seek to reach an agreement on, or at least as many of them as can.
Thanks. The members of the public I've spoken to just say they just want their bins emptying, but unfortunately for us lot, it's going to be a bit more complicated than that, isn't it?
We're already doing a good job on emptying the
Yeah,
bins,
I know we are, and this is why, Councillor Mann, and then Councillor Edmonds, and then Councillor Greenbury-Pullen.
Thank you, Mayor. You just mentioned what I was curious about, which is this part is really just about the structure, but one of the opportunities that it presents is coming up with better solutions around services like waste, transport, roads, the things that we've all been actually extremely frustrated by at the moment. If we can make savings, is that already being discussed about how that would work across these new entities, and when will we be hearing those conversations?
So I think it's a bit early to expect that those conversations are going on, other than there's clearly the ambition to do so. And I'm fully expecting that as the detail of the proposals for reorganisation takes shape, that they will focus significantly on those opportunities.
Councillor Edmonds, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The white paper indicates that the unitary makeup of the county should be decided by the constituent councils. Does that agreement need to be in place by the 21st of March, by November 25, or at a later date? And what happens, I can't imagine this would happen, but if we don't reach agreement, who will make the decision?
Jim McMahon.
Good
OBE MP.
Good questions, Councillor Edmonds. So we do not have to reach agreement by the 21st of March. It's an initial plan, but clearly the government's expectation is that we will work with other councils across the Devon-wide area. That is exactly what is happening. So at this point, I'm not able to say, and I don't know whether or not it will be possible for there to be a single plan or more than one plan. Clearly, the process of reorganisation is one in which local areas put forward their propositions, and that's what we'll be asked to do by November. Ultimately, it is the government that decides. So and they decide between alternative bids. That's exactly what happened in Somerset. There were two different proposals in front of the government. The government made its decision. So this will be no different. In November, those detailed proposals will go in. There might be one, there might be more than one, and the Minister and the government will make that decision.
Thank you. Mayor, can I just have a supplementary on that?
You may indeed.
You're very kind. So when we get to that point and the proposals come forward, and let's just say there are 3, perhaps 4, has the government given any guidance or indication of their ideal number of unitaries? To me, 3 or 4 sounds quite fragmented, that we've got a number of councils representing one county. Isn't that what we're trying to move, or the government's trying to move away from? And if so, have they issued guidelines, and should we be listening to those guidelines?
So, well, the guidance is set out in the criteria that was issued by the Minister on the 5th of February. That's as much detail as we have. A minimum of 500,000. The population of Plymouth and the wider Devon area is something north of 1.25 million. So that is where the scope exists. It's a matter of division, I think, probably to work out how many authorities you can fit in that, but it's not more than 3 or 4, is it, to meet that criteria? And clearly government will make decisions. They have made it clear that there will be the potential for exceptions to the 500,000 number. But, as I say, we only have the detail we have in front of us. We've got 3 pages of criteria, and that is it at the moment.
Thanks. Just add in there, Councillor Edmonds, that we had a call with South West Councils last week, and we also had a meeting prior to that with Councillor Louise Gittins, who is the LGA chairman. And I asked why there is no template, because at the moment nobody knows what they have to put in the plan. Nobody's got a clue. So you're going to get some authorities that have spent a shed load of money on consultants and all the rest of it. And as I pointed out to her, that most councils are just doing their budgets now. They haven't budgeted for hundreds of thousands to be spent on consultants, and neither do we really want to. You know, we need to have our money to get us through the financial year without having to worry about paying for other people, because what are you paying them for? Because we don't know the exam questions yet. So there was supposed to be something released this week that is pretty much the exam questions set out on a template. Whether it actually happens or not, Baroness Taylor did agree as well. She was in the next call. She did agree. But, you know, when she takes it back to London, does it get agreed by them? How does it work? I know there's meetings this week of the group leaders of the LGA with the ministers of MHCLG, but who knows? But it would be so helpful, Councillor Edmonds, if we just had, you know, like you used to get in school, your A4 bit of paper with your boxes, and you fill in the boxes. And that would just be so good, because nobody knows what to fill in a box.
Councillor Gregory-Pullen, please.
Thank you. Do we know at what point and timescale, under the restrictions that you're working under currently, that data will be offered to help us make more informed decisions for our communities and to put people first before politics? Because that really concerns me. And I know you're working under really tight time constraints and we don't know where we're going, but is there a loose plan of when you'll have that and we'll understand more about that process?
Yes, there is. I've already said in this meeting that, you know, the Devon County have offered the information when they have it, the end of February and 14th March. All other authorities, including Plymouth and Torbay, we have all agreed to information share and data share. So there is no issue with the rest. It was just Devon that we needed to come to the table, and they have now agreed. So that, you know, data is there that we can share, but it's also knowing exactly what data you need.
Right, members, are there any other questions or discussion? Oh, Councillor Daniel, I can't see there. You're very well camouflaged because of the beautiful photograph. Yes, it is nice.
Thank you. I just want to say that really echo what Councillor Mann just said, that local government reorganisation is a positive opportunity for Devon councils to join together and provide effective, streamlined services for all our residents. And hopefully we'll have devolved budgets and powers to do that. And I think we should be looking on it more as an opportunity rather than a loss. And I really have every hope that our senior leadership team and our leader, Councillor Ewins, will work tirelessly to get the best results for West Devon residents. And you know, in the new system, it has a lot of potential. Thank you.
That wasn't a question, no, it wasn't. But I think, given the nature of this topic, it needs a little bit of flexibility from the chairman. So, has anybody any other questions? All right, Councillor West. Pardon? Yeah, we haven't moved into debate yet. But yeah, so we got to. Do you want to propose and get a seconded then, and we can go into debate?
Yes, please. The recommendation sort of changed a little bit earlier at about 1:30, and that the council delegate to the chief executive in consultation with the council leader and leader of the opposition group to do anything, golly, Darryl, all the words are jumping, to do anything necessary to respond to the Minister of State for Local Government and English Devolution's letter dated the 5th of February by the deadline of the 21st of March 2025.
Thanks, Leader.
May I have a seconder,
yes,
please?
Yes, seconder, please. Are you, Councillor Renders, happy
Thank
to?
you.
Right, so we're now into debate. So, Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to have a bit of a whinge, I have to say. Well, initially, anyway. So, this is an opportunity, and I get that, but to me, it feels like a sledgehammer to crack a nut. So the problem is, and I think we'd all agree, that those of us who've been here at least a couple of terms, that, you know, trying to balance budgets isn't always easy. We've done a very good job with it here, but other councils have challenged that, and it's left, you know, residents in various places struggling to see services. It feels to me like this is and I'll say it because I think this is true. Others might disagree in the chamber, and that's fine, but this is my opinion, that this is a political opportunity by the government to manoeuvre funds from rural areas into urban communities. And while none of us here would say there are urban communities that are desperate for that support and that, and for funding to be put into place for those communities, it shouldn't be at the loss of another community. The issue is here that successive governments, so I'm making this clear, I'm not picking on this government, successive governments have treated local government without respect, in truth, in a lot of cases. Yes, we've received funding for specific things, but it feels like this is an opportunity to kind of grab the finances closer to home. That's what it feels like to me. And I may be wrong, and others may disagree with me. The second point I'd like to make in my moan is, and it was touched on earlier on, the democracy of the process that we're going through. It does not feel democratic to me. We're being forced to do something in something that is incredibly major. We're completely changing the way that local democratic, the local democracy looks like in communities, and we're being made to do it in a relatively fast time. That doesn't feel democratic to me, and I'm a bit miffed about that, if I'm honest. I don't think there's anything we can do about it, but I feel this is the only opportunity I'm going to have to say this, so I'm saying it. It's not the first time. A few years ago, if I mention the word poll tax, it's happened before, and sometimes governments make these decisions and they're not actually the best for communities. It also feels to me, and I mentioned this earlier on in our group meeting, it feels to me that this idea seems to have been put together on the back of a fag packet. There's no structure, clear structure anyway. There's a little bit of a framework for us to make a decision on, but there's no substance. That's been brought up a number of times in the chamber today. Bearing in mind the vastness of the change that's been brought in, I think that's not great, to be honest, and it's certainly not helpful for the leader, the leader of our group, and the chief executive right now in making decisions and negotiating with other councils. And I kind of hinted at this, but I want to reinforce this because I think this is important. We all represent rural communities here. Now, some of us represent towns, but our towns are rural towns. And I think, again, there's a lack of understanding of impact on the communities that we represent here and the people that we all represent here. and it won't be just us, it will be our colleagues in the other districts. Every single one of them have large rural communities. And I think that's a shame, actually. And my fear in this, and it was sort of touched on by Councillor Kimber's question earlier on, that the representation for some of our more rural communities will be much more difficult or harder for them to get support locally through their democracy, and I think that's a shame. And just sort of drawing this moment to a close before I say my final point, is that, you know, there's an inherent cost to this, and we're sort of taking that on unless I'm mistaken. We're getting funding to do this? I don't think we are. So there's a cost to us to implement something that isn't necessarily going to help our communities. And I've written down here, I just wrote this phrase down, you know, we're here to serve our communities, not the other way around. And it feels like the enforcement that's coming from on high is that on high are sort of telling local communities how they should be represented. Well, actually, local communities should decide that, really. They're not going to get the opportunity to because of the way the process is done. I wanted to say all that because I feel quite strongly about it. Now, just to finish off my comment, to turn it around, because I think it's important that I also say this, we are where we are. This is in front of us. We have to embrace it. And, you know, Councillor Daniel made the point that it's an opportunity, and I don't disagree with that point. I just think it's a shame in the way that it's happening. I wished it had been a bit more collaborative. But nonetheless, we have to embrace it. I just hope that we get more information, more, you know, quicker than we've been getting it at the moment. And that's not a criticism of any of our colleagues, actually. The criticism is, I'm talking of process, sorry, rather than data. So the process from on high needs to come forward with more detail of what is acceptable and not acceptable. I guess there's a concern that we might put together a really good plan that works, but actually, if government don't like one aspect of it, then actually it could sort of all fall apart. But if we'd known that in the first place, then, you know, that can help us. So I will be supporting the recommendation, but with some, you know, real concerns about the way this is happening. No criticism here or fellow district colleagues or even county colleagues. My criticism is much higher than that. Thank you for allowing me to say that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. As chairman, I'm keen to hear everyone's views. So if you agree with Councillor Ball's expressions, please feel free to agree or support him. And if you've got anything additional to add, please do. But I'm mindful of the time, so, you know, I would respectfully request that you don't necessarily repeat verbatim what Councillor Ball has said and mentioned many things which we're all feeling. So, Councillor Kimber.
Thank you. I just want to say to the leader and the chief executive, I fully appreciate the time constraints you're working under. I also understand they're not constraints you would choose. I'm sure you would prefer a more open and transparent process. And I'd like to thank you both for the work you're doing, and I hope you feel our support for that work. And I'd also like to make a representation on behalf of the northern part of our borough. To me, it seems natural for the southern part of West Devon to be linked with Plymouth and South Hams. But in my opinion, the communities in the northern part of the borough should not be included in a unitary authority with Plymouth or Torbay. Torridge and Exeter would make more natural partners. So this is a simple request for you to take all areas of West Devon into account when putting together plans and ideas, and I'm confident that you will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kimber. Councillor Elliott. Sorry, yeah, I can see you there. Thanks.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make a brief point, and it may seem pedantic, but I would just like to suggest a slight amendment to the recommendation. So at the moment, we're giving authority to do anything necessary, which sounds slightly desperate to me, and we've already discussed in this meeting that there is no appetite to spend lots of money on consultants, for example. So we're not delegating authority for that. So I would suggest we just change it, authority to work collaboratively with the leaders of other councils. The leaders of other councils, because we're not just districts, we're working with unitary authorities and with the county. And I think that's the spirit that we've got here. We've got a difficult task in front of us, but what we're saying is we can't do this as 31 members, and we're delegating to you the authority to work collaboratively. And I'd just like to thank you for all the work that you are doing, because there's clearly a lot of collaboration and forbearance that's needed through this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you're proposing,
so I'm formally proposing an amendment. So I realise that I formally need a seconder, I think, unless
Okay, so who'd like to say? The Councillor Daniels? All right. Oh, sorry. And are you happy to, is that acceptable to you, Leader?
It's not unacceptable, but I'm just a bit concerned that Councillor Jury won't be in any of the meetings with it, and to me that reads that he would be there.
Can I suggest we bring the monitoring officer in? So the previous wording gave me greater autonomy. I can reassure you, I absolutely intend to work collaboratively across the Devon districts and with other colleagues, but I think we have to recognise that it may not be possible to achieve a single proposal. So that would be my response. As long as everybody is comfortable that that recommendation gives us authority to work in that way, then I'm okay. David?
Madam Mayor, I entirely agree with what the Chief Executive has said. I think what you could come to an acceptable compromise by reinserting the original wording, but then adding, including authority to work collaboratively with leaders of the other councils. And that brings into play your desire to work collaboratively, but it also means that if we can't achieve a collaborative solution, the Chief Executive has power, in consultation with the two leaders, to do what's necessary to respond to the letter.
So, as the initial proposer, Leader, what you'd like to say?
I would just like to ask, and for the monitoring officer's view, when I can read, that council delegate to the chief exec. The chief exec is not making the decision on what the councils do. That's the leaders, isn't it? Yeah. Am I?
No, technically no. Technically you're delegating the authority to an officer in consultation with the politicians. That is the way the law works, David, isn't it?
Madam Mayor, that's correct. As a committee structure governance arrangement, you can't delegate to a single member. You can only delegate to a committee or an officer. So it is delegation to the officer in consultation with, and of course bearing in mind who he is consulting with. I'm sure he will take note of the views of the leader and the leader of the opposition.
Well, rest assured, I'm not going to submit a proposal which is not one that is supported by either the leader or the leader of the opposition. But technically in law, that is how it has to be framed.
Well, apart from this saying the law is an arse, the leaders do the voting, and then I am really confused because we do the voting, and if we say no, we don't want what you're doing, the chief exec can't do anything to remedy the situation. You know, if some of them go a bit off-piste, I'm not saying I will, but, you know, with the difficulties we've got in the room, not this room, the room.
Well, the only other alternative is that we call a special meeting of council. That would be your alternative. I rest assured, Leader, I've got no intention. I'd much rather not have any delegated authority. I'd much rather all the decisions were made by all of you in this room. This is simply an expedient, given the ridiculous timeframes we're working to. But I can assure you I've got no intention of submitting a proposal which is not supported by you or the Leader of the Opposition. And if there's time, I will have discussions with a wider group of members as well.
So I need some help. That's that flurry. So we have, you've not accepted the substantial,
No, I have.
Oh, you did.
I'll go with that,
You did.
yeah.
You will go with that, right? So do we put? We've got a seconder for that.
We have. The monitoring officer
Are you
suggested
wanting to talk, Ursula? Councillor Mann. Councillor Mann, are you wanting to talk, or were you seconding?
So can I suggest, Madam Mayor, we ask the monitoring officer to just confirm whether or not he thinks that the proposed recommendation is legal and acceptable. Then we can deal with whether it's acceptable politically.
I mean, legally, it's a decision you can make. Whether it actually achieves what you would hope to achieve in terms of being able to respond to that letter, I'll leave it up to members to decide.
Councillor Mann.
I just would like to say that I think that some other language could be useful. I think giving away the authority to do anything necessary is potentially a problem, in that we don't know what we're facing, and we've all been talking about how much unknown information there is. So my concern with just giving authority to work collaboratively is it doesn't really clarify if you were, for instance, having to agree to give some power to the group that you're in, or some other activity that you need to actually agree as a group once you've got your plan together. So although I understand the concern around giving such a wide delegation that's almost unmodified, perhaps we could modify it in a way that's slightly less than what has been proposed. So something that is either time limited, so for the period of time only until such time and then review, or adding back in anything necessary that agrees with the proposals that have been agreed collaboratively. Does that make sense? So I think that the idea that you were concerned about was the breadth of a delegation to do anything necessary, because that's so broad. And if there's just a way that the monitoring officer could potentially limit that in some way that would make everybody feel comfortable.
So, Councillor Mann, are you saying then that you preferred the original recommendation, or that you're in support of the second recommendation?
I am concerned about moving away from the original language. I am, yes. Right. Because I'm concerned about limiting too narrowly what is possible for the chief executive to do in the very short time span.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Elliott, do you want to respond?
Yeah, so just very briefly, it was not my intention to hugely curtail the delegated authority, but I just felt that the wording, anything necessary, just was a little bit too broad, and I would really welcome any intervention from the monitoring officer about how we can come to a middle path here.
Appropriate rather than necessary? Oh, right. Oh, we're going to adjourn for 5 minutes and have a powwow. Okay, so Everyone in favour of adjourning for 5 minutes to get this very important issue sorted?
That's carried for an adjournment. Thank you, Matt.
For sharing. Right, members, eyes down for the second half. Are we broadcasting now? Right, I'll behave myself.
Members.
Okay, order. Right, I'm just going to hand over to the Chief Exec now to go, or the monitoring officer actually. That was a hospital pass. So thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Fairbairn.
The proposed wording is on the screen. I gather from noises amongst members that that is likely to be acceptable. That is the proposal in front of you.
Leader, are you prepared to accept that?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
We got a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. So that's the substantive motion. Now, everybody happy with that? Can we have a debate over that? Anybody got anything to say? No? Oh, right. Councillor Jury, sorry.
Very quickly, for want of keeping us here any longer, but it's a really important issue. I'm sure that none of us want to dilute the democracy in this area, and I'm sure none of us want to end up with worse services for our residents. As we said earlier, it's really important that we approach this with the benefit, the ultimate benefit, or at least making sure that our residents do best as well as they can and the best possible result for the residents that comes out of this. And so I hope that we can get a real cross-party consensus on this and all work together. And that's what that's the way I think we ought to try and work. So thank you again to the leader and Chief Exec for the work you've done, and we'll stand by to be consulted.
Has anyone else anything to add? Right. I can't see anybody, so I'm closing that now. So we go to the vote. So our members, you see the recommendation in front of you. May I have it's been proposed and seconded. May I have a show of hands to show who supports this? All those for?
That's unanimous in favour. Thank you, Mayor.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, members. That was it. We've been having some interesting meetings just lately, haven't we? So we now move on to agenda item 12, which is the member appointment of Devon Authority Strategic Waste Committee. Councillor Ewings, you can introduce this. I don't think it will take you too long.
I'm just going to ask members to look at the recommendation. As it transpires, there isn't now a meeting before June, I think Councillor Moody said to me. So this is a little academic, but at least he can listen in if there is anything called as an emergency meeting. So thank you.
Okay, so saying that it's not necessary, but Councillor Moody will be it now. So for people watching, it's just that we're Councillor Moody is going to replace Councillor Mann on the waste. Okay. Thank you. So I think
I need a seconder, please.
Oh, sorry, a seconder. Sorry. Thank you. You've got. Oh, that's nice. Yes, got. I think that's rather politic. Very nice. So, Councillor Mann, is there any debate on Councillor Moody replacing Councillor Mann? No. Good. Well, may I just thank you very much for everything you've done, Councillor Mann, and I'm sure Councillor Moody will be very good. So, put it to the vote. Sorry.
That's clearly carried for the recommendation.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So, Mayor's concluding remarks. I'm just going to thank you all. It's been really, it's just an unfortunate time, isn't it, with everything just being chucked at us. But I think we're getting there. And just take care on your way home. So thank you very much, everyone.